We have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're here to discuss the Arsenal 2-2 draw against Fulham, and we didn't make it 3 wins out of 3. Very, very frustrating. Neil Shah was there, and he's here today to talk about it. We're not delighted, but we're going to talk about it. Neil, how are you?
Yes, I would love to sound well, but I'm not feeling great, and probably doesn't help that we dropped 2 points as far as I'm concerned. So, great to obviously be there. It's always humbling to be there, but honestly, Jack, we threw it away. Right, that's how I felt. So,
from the get-go? From the absolute
get-go. From the get-go, right from the start.
So I mean, even you must have some theories on this lineup stuff. I mean, I think at this point, everyone thought Gabriel was coming back in. For sure, this game, Gabriel was coming back in, and he didn't. We kept it exactly the same. And, I say that. He kept it exactly the same, but chose to try another option at left-back in kiwior. 3 in 3 games, in fairness. The other 2 have been injury and suspension, so he couldn't really do much there. I give him that. Also changed out Eddie, who... The one time I'm thinking Eddie's really on form, he starts changing him out. And I don't want him to play for the last 2 years. He can't. He loves chucking him in. And I felt that was also odd because of Eddie's form. It's certainly been one of the brightest sparks of our season so far, and proved it again today. I mean, Neil, we can't move on without talking a little bit before we start about the whole absolute nonsense of the starts of the game and how we like to chuck the ball in our net after 60 seconds once again of the lineup. It's just what's your feeling there? Is he tinkering for the sake of tinkering? Is he trying to prove a point to the players for the way we dropped off because of the end of last season, or is it a positive, and is he trying to ensure that he doesn't lose the squad like he did last year and rely heavily on 13 or 14 till they completely break down and we crumble, and trying to show that any one spot is up for grabs? I think it could be all of those things, but either way, I think it's costing us in a short term, and not just result-wise, performance-wise. It hasn't been up to scratch really in all these 3 games.
Absolutely correct, Jack. I think it's a mixture of all of them. I think he's overthinking. It seems like he's trying too hard. It seems like he's trying to prove a point. Maybe he's trying to prove the point to himself and to Pep. I don't know what it is, but it's hurting us. I remember I said on the pod last time, I said I don't mind the way we started, because in a way, if we're just going to keep getting better and better, it's best to peak at the right time. But after seeing yesterday, I'm like, stop this now. I said, so let's just go back to basics. Let's go back to what we had last season, because what we had last season almost won us the league from out of nowhere. No one expected it. We did ever so well, having a consistent team. We lost to a major player to injury, and plus Tomiyasu as well, which would have been a major as well, because he could have come in and covered. And that kind of dented our title hopes. So what you were doing last season was pretty much okay, apart from that. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it was okay. And now you're wanting to start every game doing something very different, and you're using Partey as a right back. You're not picking Gabriel, which for number of reasons, people are now suggesting that he could be on his way. When we have probably got in Gabriel and Saliba, Jack, the best, defensive centre-back pairing for so many years. It was Toure and Sol, maybe, would you say? Going back that far? We've waited so long for that at the back, and now, and he started 79 games last season, or
he was close to Saka. I'm not mute, am I? I'm not mute now.
No, you're not. Or his run was, he was. Yeah. He was just always there, wasn't he? He was Mr. Consistent.
Doesn't add up, does it?
Correct. And now all of a sudden you can't even get in the side. And there's just so many things. What you said about Eddie. ironically, we were always saying, what are you picking Eddie for? Now he's like, actually, he is or has been one of our best players.
Yeah.
And he proved it, didn't he? He came on, and what did he do?
Fantastic.
And not picked. All right, I got my wish. For me, that was one positive. Trossard started, but I think he wasn't playing in...
He had a stinker. Incredible. I've never seen it. The only time I've seen it was against Brighton at home last season, and we all went Trossard's off because it was so shocking. And in this game, it was the same thing, but he was kind of a guilty member of the system itself. You know, I didn't put it largely, but his touch was definitely off. But the game passed him by a little bit, which was insane.
You can go on and on. Havertz, right? Okay. Up until now, we thought, let's try and But yesterday, I just thought he was getting in everyone's way. I don't know what he was offering, and he does bits and pieces, but I still don't know what his position is, what his role is. I think I was suggesting in the last pod, maybe he should come on as a sub to start off with, maybe build up his confidence. No, and now I am thinking it's the price tag, and he's playing him, and let's see what he can do. There's lots of things, but you know what I'm going to say, and I don't normally do this, and I don't want to do this, but I felt yesterday was all down to Arteta. Yeah, the players have to show up, but what can the players do if everyone's out of sync, everyone's out of position, there's no balance in the team? It was a mess for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically altered everyone's position in the back four. Or they weren't even in it in the first place last season. I mean, that's a lot of change, especially when you're basically changing your whole central midfield because Rice and Havertz have come into it. We argued at the start of the season, is Rice plus Havertz too much of a change for this 11? We had no idea what he was planning elsewhere. We had no idea. That was when we thought everything was going to be the same. And now we're like, what is the same? And I think he's forgetting the things that were so good last season. I understand he's been struck by the Zinchenko injury, of course, and the Timber injury, which was costly, and he's tried to find alternatives. I think to a large degree, in certain areas, I've understood that. But like you said, now at this point, the Gabriel one, especially when you saw kiwior at left back, and I've got nothing against kiwior, I think he's going to be a good player for us. But he played it like you're watching it, going, why aren't you just playing Gabriel there if you're going to play the left back position like that? To be honest, just put Gabriel out there. He's stronger, he's more physical, he's better aerially on set pieces, which we were terrible on, by the way, defensively and attacking wise. I thought. Let's not forget, Gabriel scored the win. I know he conceded last year the winner against Fulham from a set piece, and the last second of this game, the exact same ball dropped from a Leno fumble and it landed at kiwior's feet. And I was watching it thinking that could have been Gabriel. And he's, we know how good he is from set pieces on both ends. And I just found it when he put kiwior in, I was like, the reason I find that odd is that is a centre back that you're putting at left back, and I'm almost certain Gabriel could play in a very similar way. I found it very, very odd. And the Gabriel one, we're going to come back to a little bit because we'll talk a little bit because I think the transfer window closes finally in about 4 or 5 days for us. And I think at this point he's got to be a talking point there at the very least, unfortunately. But for all the system questions and all the frustrations and the Havertz experiment, which we'll get to, we're just so sloppy in the first 60 seconds of home games. I don't understand. The first team ever, or in a while, to concede 3 goals in a calendar year in the first 60 seconds. Obviously, that includes the Bournemouth one, the Southampton one, which Ramsdale just passed to them after 22 seconds, and this one, which was completely on Saka. Really, it was but then you've got Partey vacating the right back space because he's not a right back, and Aaron Ramsdale in no man's land, Neil.
Yeah, totally agree. Unbelievably sloppy. I'm glad you mentioned the Partey thing because by him being in that position has disrupted another partnership between Ben White and Saka as well. You had a great partnership between partnerships for me is key. You had Xhaka, Partey, you had Gabriel Saliba, you had Ben White and Saka. They're so intrinsic. They're so important for a good team or a success of a good team. And you're moving them all around, excluding Gabriel. You're moving Partey away. So you're losing those vital key partnerships which worked for you. Why are you trying to be clever and overthink things? Honestly, it's ridiculous. So, because of that, yes, Partey wasn't there. There was a hole. Saka was so sloppy. And Ramsdale, I always feel why does he stand so far out? It's so obvious. You know, when you watch it on TV, you can see it, right? But when you're there, it's even worse. Even the guys next to me, didn't even know them. Because I was sitting in a separate seat to where everyone else had gone yesterday, the guys I'd gone with. And they were like going, why is he always standing so far away from the goal? And that could leave him open to so many things. I know it sounds like we're having a real go at everyone. I mean, it's hard not to sometimes when you're so disappointed. We should be beating the Fulhams at home. I'm not being disrespectful. I know it's the hardest league in the world, arguably, but we should be beating teams like Fulham, especially when they're on a bit of a wobble at the moment themselves. And they had a couple of players out, don't forget. So, yeah, I think Saka was so sloppy with that. It's very unlike him. But at the end of the day, what can you do if Arteta's positioning of everyone is missing? What can you do? And we're on the back foot. You know, even before people have settled down in the stadium, you guys have settled down at home. We're on the back foot. We're chasing the game. All right, we recovered from that eventually, but if we didn't need to, did we? And it could have changed the whole tone of the game going forward. From the off, the plan has changed. We're chasing the game. First team to concede 3 goals in under a minute in the history of the Premiership. It's not a great record to have, Jack.
Yeah, the calendar year. It's not a coincidence anymore. I think some people were saying that, and I was agreeing it. I think it does, and Ramsdale is not, no ways is this sort of, because there was other people massively at fault. But I do think there is something to be said for when we dominate. We have a lot of games where the other team gets maximum reward for the amount of chances they have. They had a 0.46 XG against 3.01 today. Basically, it was a 3-0 game. That's what it said. And it was a 2-2 game. And there is a lot of games like that. The Southampton game wasn't massively dissimilar. There's a lot of games like that. And what I always go back to now, especially now we have another option, is Ramsdale concedes a hell of a lot of goals for the amount of goals he faces, amount of chances he faces. And the data, remember when me and you sort of talked about that Tifo football video and how they break down the data quite well. The data on Raya, as opposed to Ramsdale, in terms of shots conceded and save percentages, is quite extravagantly different. David Raya's 4th in the league. Ramsdale's like 13th in the league for basically shots saved based on shot percentages and things like that. And obviously the save percentage is about 10% difference on them. And I watch Ramsdale sometimes, and I always sometimes I put it down to, it's a good finish. But then I watch some, and I think that first goal for me was, what would a top goalkeeper have done in that situation? And I get the feeling they'd save it. It's just like the De Bruyne one. Do you remember the De Bruyne one when we lost 4-1 at City? And the guy, and he was very far out, and everyone went, "What a finish from De Bruyne!" And I watched it, and I'm like, I think the top keeper's saving that, to be honest. And I do. I think that's a big issue there. Now Saka's hugely at fault. I think Saka's hugely at fault for both goals, to be honest. But how often are we ever saying that about Saka, to let's be fair? So you almost forgive him because the guy, you know, you heap praise on him. It was poor, I thought, both times from Saka. But at the same time, I felt neither of our wingers have been on it this season. I think that's partly down to the system that Arteta's employing, but Martinelli was way off. I mean, if Saka did not ever get anywhere near as bad a game as Martinelli. Martinelli was so wasteful, wasn't he, in the first half? He got given so many good balls. Remember that Odegaard ball that fizzed across, beautiful early on? Wasted, and just from then on, he wasted shot after shot and cross after cross. Couldn't get the ball out of his feet. But again, possibly guilty of the system, and also guilty of not having players around him, like the Xhakas, like the Jesuses, like the Trossards, that he's really used to connecting with. And he has to obviously overcome that. It's not just on the system, but both of our wingers, I don't think, have been anywhere near the levels they were at last season. And obviously it's early days, but that's really concerning because those are our top players. I think that's really concerning. That should tell Mikel Arteta everything. If you're not getting the most out of your top players in this system, then is the system really worth sort of persisting with the way he's going with it, you know? But yeah, like you said, we're 1-0 down, and for all the chances that we had, they did have some openings, right? Remember the Jimenez overhead kick that I thought was in personally, and and I was like, oh, geez, we could have been 2-0 down there, but we had a lot. I thought, Saka had an absolute gilt-edged header that he missed in the first half. I don't even remember that one. But Havertz was the most frustrating for me because he either wasn't there, like you said, like I think there was a ball from Saka, and he just didn't move. And if he just stepped in, he would have had a tap in. And then there was another one across from Saka, which I think was harder for him to finish, where the defender did pretty well to sort of physically put him off the ball and he couldn't get into the net. But it's not that. Some people say, well, he's getting into those positions. It's his overall play, really, Neil. His overall play, his ability on the ball, his understanding of how to move the ball into space and his positioning and moving the ball quickly. It just feels off, and it feels very experimental at the moment in the left eight for him. And I think if nothing else had changed and it was just Havertz getting into the left eight position, I think we could have a chance of it. He's got no chance with all these moving pieces and the way it is right now, because the team isn't anywhere near as functional as it was throughout last season. I feel a little bit sorry for him, but at the same time, my biggest concern is how stubborn Mikel Arteta is going to be with the position that we have, I believe, other alternatives for, as you saw with Fabio Vieira, who basically came on in he certainly was playing a lot in that left eight position, wasn't he? And we'll get to him. But I mean, lots of near misses in the first half. And the second half, he doesn't make many substitutions at half time. He made one. Eddie for Trossard. Trossard did have a poor game. I think he had a 70% pass accuracy and barely any touches. So it just wasn't a game for him. I don't think it was a position for him in this game. It was too compact. They were really physical up there. They're very big. They're centre backs. So I just didn't think it worked really for Trossard. But the introductions of Eddie and Vieira, to Mikel Arteta's credit, changed the game, didn't they, Neil?
Sometimes we also get confused and frustrated with his timings of substitutions. They come too late, and what impact can they make so late in the game? But wow, Eddie, I think, was half time, wasn't he? And Vieira a little bit later, but they changed the whole dynamic of the game. As soon as they came on, it's a little bit like, I think, the last game where Zinni and Jorginho came on, and it kind of settled things a little bit. And I felt that that's the same with this one. The substitutions came on, two of them, and but this one made a huge impact. By the way, you made some massively great points just there earlier. I think you're spot on with everything, especially with what you're saying with Havertz. I don't think it's entirely his fault. It's disjointed the team so much. I don't even think the players themselves know what's going on anymore. Exactly. We took so long to build up an identity, Jack, a fluid identity. And all of a sudden now, everyone's like, how can they be talking to each other and fluidly working with each other and being in sync with each other if all the positions have all been messed about and tinkered so much? It's not working, Arteta, please. Yeah. Just, if it's an ego thing, forget it. Ego done, push it aside, go back to basics. But Eddie, and oh my God, I have to say, Eddie, I'm actually going to say man of the match was Vieira for me.
It was unbelievable.
Can I talk about him first? Because I don't think he did anything wrong. There's five times that he made a massive impression on me. One was for the penalty that he created. Then for the second goal, what a pass. What a vision. He had a scissor kick attempt, which wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't.
He had another attempt at the end, which brought out a save in Leno. And also, it was his pass that led to Eddie being fouled and the guy being sent off as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was in
100% pass accuracy when he came on. Doesn't happen often, does it? No, and we noticed it. Was it in the last game when he came on and we thought he didn't have a bad... Which game did he come on? He had a cameo. Not long, but he looked pretty solid. Was it that was his first minutes of the Premier League season, but you might be thinking about the pre-season where we came in Barcelona and scored. And I thought he had a decent pre-season, to be honest. Right. And a full one, finally, which we all said was going to be important for him.
And he doesn't look it physically, but he seemed stronger to me.
And faster, I thought. Yeah. He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. He just looks like a new player. I don't know what it is about him, but it just looks different. He looks more on it. He looks ready, fit, powerful as well. Powerful in a different kind of way, maybe. And he just changed it. Complete his vision as well and his awareness. He was
anything, does he?
Yeah, I would even go as far as saying he needs to start, because at the moment, if all the other players are just falling apart, he was terrific, Jack. Terrific. But Eddie, I mean, his strength, his vision, everything about him. You were saying last pod, his link-up play is a lot better, but it just seems to be what we've always wanted in Eddie, and he's just suddenly doing it. And I would go as far as to suggest that he keeps Jesus out at the moment.
I'd start him this week, no question.
Correct, 100%. In fact,
what he does is he says, sit down for another week, Jesus. We're going to need you at some point off the bench, but we can't drop this guy right now, and we need you to be fully fit anyway. We don't want to rush you back, and that's exactly what you want from Eddie. He's proving me wrong almost every season now, so I've got no real. He's undroppable. I think he's undroppable at the moment.
At the moment, because he's one of our better forwards. It's as simple as he is. He's proving the point that Arteta, you play your best players in their best, strongest positions. That's it. It's not mathematics. It really. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. And Eddie is definitely fulfilling one of those roles at the moment. I was actually. I know you might think I'm wrong in this one. But when Jesus was coming on yesterday, if you just want to quickly mention Jesus, I actually thought it was going to be Nelson. I actually thought it was going to be Nelson because of the impact he made last season, very late on in the games. And
it's just his lack of pre-season, Neil, that's probably stuck him off there a little bit, because he obviously was injured for about a month, wasn't he?
Yeah, correct. But Jesus wasn't on it yesterday. I think he's still short.
Oh yeah, for sure. He came on pretty late, didn't he? I think he had.
He did. To be fair.
But no. I mean, he's back sooner than a lot of us expected. I think.
Yeah, which is a great sign. I'm not saying not. I mean, Jesus is a brilliant player. I'm not trying to poo-poo on all our players. No, of course not. But I just felt that maybe it was just me wanting Nelson to have a bit of time. But I think Eddie keeps him out at the moment. I would start Eddie against Man U, which is, I can't believe I'm saying this. James would be. You think James would without?
He's sleeping through the pod. He is. He'd be dreaming.
He's probably dreaming about him.
You're right, Neil. Because me and you have slandered Eddie a little bit. Well, we'll say criticised him quite a fair amount in the last few years, and some of it justified. Maybe some of it's a bit harsh now, but. But do you know what? The one thing I say with Eddie is he is a coach's dream. He's got to be a coach's dream. I mean, look at him. He speaks so well, even though, sometimes his minutes have been shunned. Sometimes he's sat on the bench for weeks on end. And he's got the exact attitude you want from a squad player that you want to give everything when they come on, no matter if it's 1 minute or 90. And I thought it was telling that he gave him a little bit more time, actually. I think it made a difference. I think if he brought Eddie on with 15 to go, maybe you don't get that performance out of him. But the fact that he said to him, right, we're changing it and you're the man to do it, I think that's almost as big as starting, And I think credit to the manager for sure, who got a lot wrong, I felt, yesterday. But credit to him. Yeah, he did. But and we'll come back to Eddie. But on Vieira, I mean, I've loved Vieira since he came in, to be honest, and a lot of people sort of mentioned, do you loan him? This is his make or break season, and I felt ever since I saw him against United away when we lost last season. Yeah. And I was like, well, now this is a proper player. Like, he's got some proper technique. And I love how every ball he plays is with purpose. He seems like he knows exactly where he wants to play every ball. Even if it doesn't get there, you can tell exactly. He doesn't ever plays it into an area. He always aims for a person. And I think that's brilliant. And I think he's, in terms of midfield, I think he's one of our best finishers going into the final third. I think he is. I think he's got an eye for goal from the edge of the box that no one else has got. I'll put him ahead of Odegaard on that, who was very good on the ball but extremely wasteful in front of goal yesterday. And I love Odegaard. But I think that's the one thing. I think Fabio Vieira's output, if he plays a lot of minutes, will be unbelievable. I really do think that. One penalty, one one assist already, and he's only played 35 minutes this season. So that was terrific. What does that say, though, Neil? Because the one interesting thing about this game was it was the first time we were chasing a game this season, and what that tells you is who he really trusts from the bench. And it does not look very good for our man Emil Smith-Rowe, does it?
I was hoping you didn't mention him.
It doesn't look good for him. No, I've been saying for the last week, little tweaks going, watch Smith-Rowe this transfer window. I've got this funny feeling, Neil, that he will go somewhere this window, either a loan or a sale. Because I'll tell you this, right? Let's say Trossard, Saka and Martinelli were out this game, right? They were suspended or injured.
Okay.
I don't think he plays, because I think you then play Eddie, you then play probably Nelson, and you probably play Vieira on the other side because he can play Saka or Odegaard's role. So where does Smith-Rowe play? Now, some of us might say, well, he fills the 8 role for Havertz. But has Arteta ever really played him in that role? I think he's brought him on for maybe 15 minutes here and there, but he's never started him in that role. We don't really know. And Trossard was the best player in that role in pre-season. So he might be third choice in that role, maybe, though Fabio Vieira is throwing up another one because he really played well. He was everywhere, but he really played a little bit on that left 8 side as well, was created the second from there. So, Neil, my argument is, would you rather him sit on the bench and not play at all unless big injuries happen? Or would you rather keep hold of the player who has very little value at the moment in the sense of he's played like 90 minutes in the last 8 months, loan him to a Premier League club who can't play against you, get him 35 games in a season if he's fit, and you know he's going to do well because we know he's a player, and then suddenly you've got options. If your squad's moved on, you have a decision to make. If it hasn't, you go, wow, now we've got a player back that is so fully fit, and he's the player we had 2-3 years ago. I just think when I say loan, people go, oh, no, you can never do that with Smith-Rowe. It's beyond that stage. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. I don't know, Neil. But is he going to get the minutes, Neil?
Yeah. Again, you bring back up a very plausible point. And when you say it like that, maybe the loan is an answer then, is the answer, sorry. Because I don't want to lose him. I just do not want to lose this player. I can't emphasise it enough.
That allows that in a way.
And this allows at least him to get some time, to get his fitness right on back on the... I'd want him to go to a Prem club, though, of course, because I don't...
If it's a loan, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and, maybe a club that is you'd think is not going to hurt us too much. Maybe that is the answer, because you're right. When you kind of portray it like that in the colourful picture, if you like, you think, where is he going to get a chance? Maybe the League Cup games, maybe the FA Cup games, but that's probably a limit, right? And that's no good for a player like him, because he was on Saka levels for me. I keep saying it. He was great. Remember him. He was brilliant that season.
I love him. I don't want to lose it.
No, neither do I.
No,
and maybe this is the answer. And so, yes, I'm now a little bit more supportive of that. I mean, that's better than losing him completely. Yeah. But as long as the player himself is really happy with that, is completely content, and he says to himself that I will come back. If I prove myself, you will take me back, and I'll be welcome back at the club. And if the answer is yeah, of course, that's fine. If it's one of these loans which then eventually leads to him just going, then that's going to be a bit of a killer.
Yeah,
but I think. Yeah.
It allows him to. We've seen we're going to get onto the transfer window shortly, but we've seen with the Tierney incident, right? I mean, obviously a big part of Tierney's lack of ability to be able to be sold is probably his fitness, and Smith-Rowe, no matter what, his value is not at its highest right now to other clubs. They'd be taking a chance on him if they wanted him to play every week, because he's not proven that over the last 18 months or so. So, and the real important thing here is, you can tell Arteta doesn't really trusting him to use him when he gives him minutes that don't really matter. That's what he does. He gives him the minutes where it's like the last chance saloon, or we're 3-0 up. That's what I'm seeing personally. Yeah. And I'm not really seeing valuable minutes given to him. Like, here we go, it's half time, I'm getting Eddie and Vieira on to change the game. I'm not seeing those minutes being given to him. The last time he had those minutes was the Bournemouth game, and he came back off. Do you remember? He came on and they went, I'll take you back off now. So, and it's no slight, I just, eventually it comes down to what does the manager think, of course. And we don't agree with everything the manager does, but I'm struggling. But I can't help talk about Vieira, but without sort of mentioning Smith Rowe, because there's a feeling there that only one can really exist at this point as an understudy to Odegaard or whatever it might be. Maybe not. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we keep him around. I know what people would say. If you lose Smith Rowe, you've got to get another attacking addition. But it's quite congested up there as it is, isn't it? I mean, we've got players like Nelson and Smith Rowe and Vieira that we're struggling to get minutes for. So if you lost one and didn't get one in, I don't think you could say you were short. At the same time, I do have to say, I watch Martinelli and Saka in games like this and think I'd love to have a real challenger for them, where you could just say, Saka, you're off you're not having a game, mate. You're off after 60 today. We're getting this boy on. And we don't have that player. And I think Arteta knows it. That player that's fast and quick and electric and has the ability to really push both of them. I know Trossard's fantastic, but he's a different type of player, isn't he? For Martinelli, he's not the same sort of player. And we don't really have that player that can mimic their sort of their style really, which is frustrating. Hopefully that's Nelson. Maybe he does have a lot of those attributes, but he's not had those minutes really. So hopefully it's Nelson. But second half completely changed it, and Eddie and Vieira were a huge part of that. Despite Zinchenko's error for their equaliser. He was terrific too on the ball going forwards. He just has those moments. He has those. We know he has those moments. You almost not allow it, but it's kind of like Liverpool and Trent Alexander in a way. You kind of go, oh yeah, he's going to do that, but he's going to do so much at the other end that you've just got to allow it. But you want the right player besides Zinchenko, which is Gabriel, and he's not playing at the moment, which is really worrying and a bit frustrating. But Neil, when they go, I'll tell you what, the next thing I want to talk about is when they go down to 10 men, we're 2-1 up, we've turned the game around. They go down to 10 men. You're thinking, okay, now just be comfortable, continue to do what you're doing, and we sit off again. Why do we sit off? Whether we've got 10 men, they've got 10 men, at one goal up, when there's 20 minutes or 30 minutes left in the game, we decide to stop playing forward progressive football, sit off 10 yards or so, and allow the other team to have the ball. I hope Mikel Arteta is not directing it, but because it's happening so often, and we seem to be relatively comfortable with it, I have to put it back on the coach. It's madness, Neil, because we're so dominant over these teams. The scoreline shouldn't matter. Last 3 or 4 minutes, different. Last 20 minutes, what are we doing? Why are we doing that, Neil?
I wish I could answer it, Jack. It doesn't make any sense. That period, when they came on and we got back into the game, the intensity, the noise in the stadium was unreal. I keep going on about the noise in the stadium, but when Eddie scored that the second goal, holy God! I mean, it was unbelievable. It was just incredible. The euphoria. I've got a video. I haven't posted it to it. You'll just see the noise. It's just mental, absolutely mental. So the players should feed on that anyway, and they do. To be fair to them, they do. You see, Odegaard was giving it all that. Oh, and he's great like that. He really is. Let me just quickly mention, I digress very quickly. Right at the end of the game, well after the final whistle, he came back out in his, his after game. Actually, looked quite smart, and he went around the whole pitch, even though it was 2-2, and he went around the whole perimeter of the pitch, thanking all the fans. And I said, that is that's your the captain for you. That is a captain for you. Unbelievable. I'm really liking the guy. You liked him from the start. For me, he's getting more and more becoming a favourite of mine because he's just class. He's a lovely guy, and I like that about him. But anyway, going back to why, I don't know. I think it must be on the coach because it's happening too often. We just we get into that commanding position, and we're winning, and we feel like we've regained control. Like in this case, we lost control initially. And then we just sit back. Yeah, we'll be all right. Now, is that complacency? Is that arrogance, Jack? I don't know. Because if it is, that is a massive mistake. You cannot be complacent and arrogant with any team in this league. Yes, I may be being a hypocrite now, because earlier I said the league is the hardest in the world, but really you've got to be beating teams like Fulham at home. And I still stand by that. But at the same time, you've still got to be a little bit respectful of them. And I don't think we were. I think, it was Arteta. I think we are, number one, there's no respect because of all the tinkering that we're doing. That's the first thing. And then obviously yesterday, we got control. Oh, yeah, we're right now. They're finished. They're down to 10 men. They're hurt. They've also they've lost the lead again, so they're hurt. And then we're like, yeah, we'll just sit back. Why do we do that? Why can't we just keep the intensity? They're fit players. They're super fit human beings. We should be able to maintain that right till the end. We should be playing like we're chasing the game right till the end. Even if we're leading 4-0, play like you're chasing the game. So you're on alert, you're on red alert all the time. Jack, I don't know the answer why he's doing it if it is him. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I just hope it's not an ego thing, because that is wrong. Really bad. I don't think your thoughts are on it.
We're vulnerable to conceding anyway, so just keep going for the third. If you get caught on the break, that's the game you're playing anyway from the get-go. So but you know it can happen in an instant from a corner, just like this, a nothing set piece, or from someone catching you on the break like Adama Traore when we were going for it again. Do you know what I mean? It can happen in either situation with us. So just continue to play the game that you know you are closer to, that makes you more functional in the way you want to play in your progressive system. But we do it too often. It's not just this season. We've done it in the past under Mikel Arteta for quite a while, where we've gone up and suddenly you're like, why are we sitting so deep and giving this other team the ball when we've had 75% of the ball for the whole game? It's so strange. It's so frustrating. It gives the team confidence, the other team confidence and belief. And they had 10 men at this point. It was frustrating. Fulham aren't a bad side. I think they've, the start to their season is probably a bit skewed, but still, it's just that simple. A little mistake gives them a corner. Poor marking from Saka and Rice. Saka should close him down really well. Rice, I don't think, does much better. And a good finish from them into the corner. And suddenly, that's it. And you're back to square one again. And it's 2 points dropped. And it's tremendously frustrating, Neil. Because it feels like we haven't learned. All the players saying we've learned from our issues. And I know it's just one game and it's a draw and it's not, it's not a catastrophe or anything like that. But every drop point when you're trying to fight against a team like Man City will and does feel like a catastrophe, and it is massive. So that's why the fans are so, despondent and frustrated and down. And it's that in that sense, it's understandable. It's not like it used to be. And it's so unavoidable, this game. I mean, you really, any other day, you should be winning this game comfortably. And they did get maximum reward, but it's such silly errors from us. And it was coming, Neil, because the Nottingham Forest game, we had the warnings. We had the warnings about what happens when you step off top by 5-10%. And we did it again, We did it again when they had 10 men. And it's unforgivable, really. And this all stems back from even last season, when the Southampton game and the West Ham game and the Liverpool game, where you watching it going, why are you giving them so much confidence and in order to do this when you're so much better than this team? You're so much better. And it's so frustrating, and I do not understand it, and I don't know how he gets it out of them, but it's definitely partly down to the manager, because it's too consistent. We're seeing it too often. And as a collective, the manager has to push that out of the mindset. He has to, and we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it in game, and it's very, very frustrating. 2 points dropped. I agree with you. I thought Vieira was the man of the match. The subs were the man of the match, really. There were some decent performances there. I think Partey's doing commendable, really, in terms of not being a right back and having to invert. I think Rice looked less comfortable in this game than he did against Palace, and I think Partey was less next to him than he was against Palace for some reason. I think he's better when Partey's next to him and he's able to play a little higher. So, like against Forest, he had a lot of chances and ability to go forward, and I think Rice is better when he's in the big space area, and our number 8 position is a big space area. And I mean, I don't know about you, Neil, but looking ahead to the Man Utd game, we'll talk about what we should do and how we should line up for that, because it's a massive game. Now we have to win that game. I just cannot see beyond a Partey, Odegaard, Rice middle three. But in order to do that, he's got to drop Havertz, and I can't see him doing it, which is just crazy. But anything else, to touch on the game other than it's really frustrating and Mikel said we were 10 times better than we were last season in the game against Fulham. that we won. I don't think that does a lot for me. Did it do a lot for you?
No. What, did he say that?
He did.
Okay.
He did. And I didn't think we were perfect against Fulham last season either, but we got a win. And I don't think what this is trying to do, Neil, is basically add another attacker to the group by just having 3 at the back. And although we created a lot of chances, and we had a ton of chances in the late minutes, didn't we? The kiwior one cleared off the line, the Vieira scissor kick, there was the Vieira shot from distance. There was a lot of chances in that last 9 minutes, again, but not enough. But I'm not sure we're creating much more clear-cut chances than we were last season when we were a little bit more defensively secure, at least when we had the first team out and without Saliba and Tomiyasu's injuries. So I'm not sure it is really paying off.
Well, maybe that was just his way of just trying to justify it. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think that's right.
He also said that we were poor in both boxes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play. From the takeaway from me was you've always laughed about biscuit hands, right? And what did we do yesterday? We know his weakness more than anyone else. And what were the attackers doing? Shooting straight at him, making it so easy. So easy. I'm not trying to undermine his performance. I've always liked Leno, to be fair. And I know he's another nice guy, but we were making it easy for him. Attackers, every shot initially, apart from when he just said when Eddie came on and things changed, was straight to him.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't really have to do much, does it? You just get your body behind it.
And he's terrible. And he's terrible from set pieces. He can't control his box. He saw that in the last minute with kiwior. And who did we leave on the bench? Gabriel. He was probably our best player from set pieces in either box.
It doesn't make any sense at all. And you're. Well, it's the whole team's disrupted. That's my takeaway. He's disrupted the whole team. No, I agree. I was also saying to the guy again, to the chap next to me, that all right. Although he was the same. He's like, "What are we doing? Why is this? Just doesn't make sense. It's just so imbalanced." We didn't have at one point. We didn't even have a link in the midfield. We just didn't. There was gaps. There was no link up play because of the system and the gaps. And you just think, why? And he kept saying, "Why is he doing this? What's the reason?" I was like, I don't know. He thinks there's a reason for it and there's a madness behind it, but it just doesn't make any sense. And, I think Rice was probably back to reverting. I said he started a bit slow and he's getting better each game. I think he dropped off again. It's not his fault because he just wasn't comfortable with the system for me. Anyway, and I just felt we didn't take advantage of Leno's weaknesses. That's the big takeaway from me. And please, Arteta, go back.
So, what are you doing for United, Neil? It's a massive game. They're not without their issues either.
What I want and what Arteta's going to do is two different things, of course. Yeah. Havertz has got to be dropped. It's not working, Jack. What's he offering? If anything, he's probably confusing it even more. Again, it's not his fault because it's so confused anyway. But I don't know what he can add in this confusion. He's certainly not offering a solution, is he? So I would go back. It's not going to happen, but I want Gabriel back. I want Zinchenko. He can carry on playing his inverted role. Fine. Partey has to be back in his as a proper midfielder with Rice. So Rice can be more comfortable doing what he does. As you said, get Ben White back in that right back position so he can link up with Saka again. And I think you're right. It's got to be Partey, Rice, and Odegaard in the mid. And then up front, Trossard, I probably didn't do him any confidence, did it? Because he didn't play well. He was changed at half time. What's that going to say? He's up until yesterday, I thought he's been brilliant every time he's come on. And he starts because he's in an unfamiliar position, an unfamiliar system. And that might have even knocked his confidence now. And that's heartbreaking for me. So I don't know if he starts. So I would go up front, Martinelli, Eddie, and Saka. I'd have Odegaard, Partey, and Rice, and then the familiar back four
that we know
that got us where we were. Exactly. And then if you're going to make substitutions, I'll make sure Vieira gets a bit of time next week because he deserves it. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so, I do everything you said.
Just back to familiar territory.
Other than I would play Raya in goal.
I was going to just say that.
Honestly, I know it seems like I'm bashing, but it's going to happen anyway, Neil.
It is.
It's inevitable that he is going to take Ramsdale's place, in my eyes. I could be completely wrong, but I believe it is basically just a waiting game. Now, you might say, well, don't change it for the big one. Or you might say, change it for the big one. Do you know what I mean? Don't change, you might do. And I can take it either way there. I'm not going to watch. I like Ramsdale. I really do. I like it a lot about him, and I think he is a good goalkeeper. And I think some of the stats actually play down what a lot of the good
He does.
Yeah, of course. But you bought this guy for a reason, and this is our biggest game of the season so far, and we have to win it. You play him. But you're tinkering anyway, so it's not like you're not changing anything, is it?
No, it's true.
Change it, but then everything else, yeah, bring back. I'm not sure what it does for the group or the spirit or whatever, but play him, because I do think I am concerned about, and they are a massive transitional team, Man United.
But they're on a high at the moment.
Yeah,
after
because they
Forest.
Yeah, of course. 2-0 thing. They feel like and they also feel like a lot's against them because they've had a few injuries and even though they've spent absolutely billions over the years, but they feel that, so they'll have that belief about them. And also, if you do the right back inverted thing against United, it's Rashford on the left wing, and that is that is really asking for trouble, right? You'd much rather do it on the other side where they've got Anthony, who's nowhere near as dangerous on paper and as we've seen as Rashford. So there's other reasons when you just look at the opposition in order to convert back and switch back. So again, all of that logic, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar thing again. But And if he does do that, I expect he'll probably find a way of getting Havertz into the number 9 position and dropping Eddie once again. But I don't think that's the right decision. I really don't. And I think they'll love it if they see that. And Eddie's just a nightmare for defenders at the moment. And they will not like it. They will not like it one bit. Because Eddie is really getting close to the type of role that Jesus does. He's really getting close to it, I think. And actually he's getting close to it, and his finishing's better. So he's got 2 goals in 2.5 games, and I'm not certain Jesus puts away that chance today, and that's full credit to Eddie, really. So I agree with you a lot on that. Neil, before we go, I'll get the predictions, but just I just want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of the transfer stuff that's gone on.
Yeah, sure.
Balogun went for 40 million, roughly 40 million pounds.
Is it done? I didn't even know.
It's confirmed by everybody, but not by us. But it's basically confirmed. Yeah, he's gone to Monaco. Well, I just want to know what you. I think it's around a record. Oh, it's crazy that our record transfer fee is still a Wobie at 35 million. I believe with the add-ons, it might be just above that. So. What's your thoughts on that? Frustrated, upset, happy?
Not happy. Happy. If I hadn't known about his absolute determination to leave the club, I probably would have been a bit upset because I thought there was a play in him. But for me, if you're not committed to the club, if you want to go, it was so clear to me in that game, which was covered by Apple, which I managed to watch all the stuff before, the skills thing the day before. And he was being interviewed. You could tell he just didn't want to be at Arsenal. He just doesn't want to be there. So great, I'm very happy. Maybe we could have got a bit more from him because of the crazy market at the moment, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that he's gone. We've got a bit of money back from the investments that we have made, and good luck to him. And I really don't. I'm not going to say I'm not bothered. That's a horrible thing to say, but it's you know how I feel about someone like Emil Smith-Rowe going.
Yeah,
that's my example of 2 extreme opposites.
Right.
That really upset me. Balogun,
not so much.
Just, I didn't. Yeah, fine. He's gone.
Yeah, and he's not played much. He's played less than 10 games for a first team. And, I think he'll do well. But we've got a relatively good sell-on clause, apparently. I don't know if we've got a buyback clause in there, but a relatively good sell-on clause. And obviously the frustration is, well, not the frustration, but if a Premier League come in for him, maybe we would have got a little bit more. But at the same time, you'd have to see him in the Premier League, and then you'd probably be a little bit more frustrated if he was doing well. So, I'm fine with it. This was the one deal we had to get money in for. There was no excuse not to get decent money in for. I'm not going to complain about the 5-10 million because we've been terrible sellers, I think, in the last few years, and this is not a terrible sale whatsoever. Where we could argue is not great, and some people, I've seen everyone trying to justify it with every single reason they possibly can, is a Tierney situation, who as being loaned to Real Sociedad, I believe, for around a 6 million loan fee or 5 million loan fee. Full wages paid, which is pretty extensive for Real Sociedad because it's 120 grand a week, and I think their highest wage is somewhere around half that. So, so that's significant. I'm not trying to say it's all positive because I do believe Tierney should have commanded a fee at the very least what we paid for him. Do you think the reason that we didn't get a fee for Tierney is largely down to the wage and the fitness issues, or do you think we could have done more in terms of marketing the player?
That's a really hard one. I don't know. I think, could it be because they weren't sure that they wanted to get rid of him? Maybe Arteta had plans, so it wasn't as well thought out as maybe another potential sell could have been. I don't know. The fitness issue is obviously there, but then again, he hasn't had the chance to really play consistently to decide whether he's recovered from all of those problems. So it's a bit of an unknown, isn't it? So it's hard to just... Well, it's wrong just to say, oh, well, we'll give you less because he's not actually that fit and he's prone to injury. Hasn't had the chance to prove otherwise. So I think that's a bit of an unknown for me. I don't know actually what the answer could be. It could be that. It could be his lack of appearances. Because there's definitely a good player in there. He's going to suit some teams so well in the systems that they play. It would, in one of the, you know, in the olden days, it would have suited us brilliantly. It would have been one of our best, you know. But I don't know, but it's disappointing because I don't know what will happen after the loan spell. What does it mean? Do we get him back? Do we just lose him for very little money? I'm like you. We should have at least got back what we paid for him because he's a great player. And he would probably walk into, if not all the Prem teams that we've got, maybe 85% of them, surely. So
this allows, I don't know why the money wasn't there, but or people didn't prioritise it, but if he has a good loan spell and he's fit for the season, his contract's still till 2026, so we don't...
Oh, okay, then that might be right then.
Yeah, we could be here in 12 months' time and saying, well, okay, now he's had a 30-game season, he's got Real Sociedad into Europe, they love him there, they want to keep him, but they can't afford him, and suddenly you create a market again for him, you know? I mean, there's a possibility, right?
Well, that's fine then. That's fine. I mean, it would be nice to have had the money now, but if it's a bit of a waiting game, so be it, then that's fine. If he does that, he proves it that he's a great player and his fitness isn't an issue anymore. Yeah, go for it, then that's fine. And let's not forget, we always need to forget. We always look at we tend to focus, and that's quite natural to do so, quite correct to do so. The fees, but wages, taking a wage bill off, really does relax the payroll a lot. And 120,000 a week for a player we're not using, so it's a good thing if they're going to be paying that. Yeah. So and that's one positive at least, and also positive is for the lad himself.
Yeah.
You know, he must be so frustrated. At one point, I was touting him to be captain. Don't you remember?
Yeah, well, isn't that a sign that he probably epitomises the ruthlessness from Arteta as much as anybody, doesn't he? I mean, you've gone from within 2 years a player that was a huge part of his setup and undroppable if he was fit and a key part to our build-up playing away to go to a player that can't make squads anymore. Well, I mean, that's quite a huge jump, isn't it?
Yeah, and you just mentioned ruthless, and that is why I think you're right. Don't be surprised to see Raya in goal against Man U.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. Because I thought a little bit of this game, but I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would change. I'm agreeing with you. As much as I love, you know how much I love Ramsdale. You know how much I love Ramsdale. But
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
As a supporter, Jack, I've always said. There's some players that mean so much to me over the years that I've followed Arsenal, but I always put the club first, no matter what. I think Dennis Bergkamp is God. Henry is king. I love Tony Adams. I love Pires. I love Lundberg. I love Liam Brady. I love all throughout the different generations. I have my favourites. I love Eduardo, who got injured. I've got him on the black shirt that we all love. I've got his name on the back because I love him so much. But end of the day, you have to always say there is no one bigger than the club. And unfortunately, even if you have some kind of, football fan relationship with any player, sometimes you have to let go. And if Raya is going to be going forward a better choice to get to where we need to go, despite all the feelings I might have for Ramsdale, I agree with you. I have to play him. because there is a really good keeper in him, and he's not. We keep saying it. He's not a loanee.
No, he's going to be permanently signed here. Yeah, which means he's going to play. He's going to play. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Like I said, I mean, to say we want another change right now with all the changes is probably asking for trouble. But at the same time, that one just does feel a little bit inevitable to me.
Yeah.
So, just a quick fire, a couple of ones before we go. Holding Cedric, Pepe, Sambi Lokonga, Nuno Tavares. All aren't training with the group, expected to be sold or let go. Do you expect any money coming in for any of those players, or are you expecting a lot of dry loans and payoffs? Or probably the two that you might expect money for are Nuno Tavares and Rob Holding. They've been linked. Well, there's been bids for them. You know, Nottingham Forest bid for Tavares. He didn't want to go there for whatever reason. Holding surprises me a little bit. I watch it. He's better than Harry Maguire. And he's been, Harry Maguire's getting bid on for. He's definitely better than Harry Maguire. No question about it. Oh, yeah. So we're struggling to get in more than 3 million for him. And I'm like, surely someone bids 5, 6, 7 million. I had a bet with James. I said, I think he'll get bid on by a Premier League club for about 6 million, like an Everton or something. But I think we'll sell Holding. Because there's no reason for us to push him out of the group unless we think a sale's him and we don't want to sort of hurt him or whatever. So I think a sale will happen whether it's abroad or within the league, but it probably won't be much money, maybe like 5, 6 million. Maybe hopefully Nuno Tavares we can get money for, but if not, a loan within the league. It's got to be within the league for these players like Sambi and Nuno Tavares. Put them to a team that can't play against us, but we know they've got some quality that can play against others. Chelsea do this with literally all the players they hoard, and no one says a word. So we don't do it hardly at all within the league. I wouldn't be against doing it with Nicolas Pepe in a way because we can't if we can't pay him off, loan him within the league. Someone's got to want him within the league. You know what I mean? Like I find that one frustrating, but most likely the Pepe one is something that will maybe go to Saudi or something like that. And Cedric, who knows with Cedric, because he's on such a big wage with us. It's like 65, 75 grand a week, and the guy's, he's not going to get paid that, is he, anywhere else? So maybe he just sticks around. I don't know. But do you think anything happens with the players that we mentioned, Gabriel or Smith Rowe? Do you think anything happens with them, like hand on heart? Well, Gabriel would be a real problem, Neil, because we're thin at the back anyway, so we'd have to sign someone, obviously. But
it's unbelievable, isn't it? We thought at one point
something's off, though, isn't it?
Yeah, when Timber came in, we thought, wow, look at our defence. We all said it on one of the pods, the pre-season pods. Look at our defence. Wow. And now we can find ourselves suffering. I can't believe I'm saying this now. The suggestion you made for Emma Smith Rowe seems far more attractive than getting rid of Gabriel. Do that with Emma Smith Rowe. That's fine. As long as he knows that he's going to come back and he's got a home back here at this club. Gabriel, it's too late now to get rid of him and then now find a suitable replacement. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late. We got our bit. You know what hurt? Really pisses. Sorry to swear. What really gets to me? We got all our good businesses, by the way, done early, just to avoid this problem. Now, all right, Tim Ridge, you can't plan for it. That's really unfortunate for both club and for the individual because he might not even ever come back the same player. My heart goes out to him big time. But Gabriel, what are you guys doing? Really?
Yeah.
We can't get rid of him, and he's got to start playing. That's it. Yeah. There's no other way.
I tell you, I said the other day, and people ruined me for it. I said if Timber was still fit, Gabriel was gone right now, and they went because that's what I believe. And I think
I could live with that.
Because you had the assurance and you got the extra man. But I think either way, probably. But I hope it's like a Xhaka scenario. You know, when Xhaka was linked to Hertha Berlin and Roma, and he was basically out the door. But obviously, we kept him for another year or two, even knowing that probably eventually he is going that way, and he was committed still. Hopefully, that's the case with Gabriel. That would be the best scenario here. Keep him, get him committed after Friday's window closes. The problem is it doesn't close in Saudi Arabia for another 3 weeks, so that's still an opening and a possibility. But hopefully, we wouldn't be stupid enough not to bring in an addition and sell him. If we bring in an addition before Friday, and it's a defensive edition, then I think still be watching Gabriel beyond Friday because then you'd be looking if we bring a centre back before Friday for a significant fee or something. Then
can you? I mean, You and James are the guys that do this. Is there anyone that we can get? Do you know?
I mean, there are players. You know, we've been linked to Gahey from Crystal Palace and a couple of others abroad. You know, the left-footed centre-back ones are not top ones, are not that easy to come by, and I'm not really aware of any that just slot right in and be at Gabriel's level, to be honest. And that's the frustration for me. So I'm erring on the side of us not doing anything else in terms of incomings this window. I would love that attacking player before the Timber stuff happened. The right winger to challenge Saka, but I'm just not seeing the finance for it. And I don't think I know we've recouped about 80 million in sales, but I think we were expecting some money for Tierney. So I'm almost thinking we're at a deficit in a way in this point, despite the fact that Arsenal's fine. So I don't think the money's there. Plus the Raya one was an addition of opportunity that you didn't expect. I know it's only a loan fee, but that's going to be expected to be more. So I think we've probably done our incomings. The most I could probably see at this point is a loan of a defensive player maybe or something. I'm not unless someone big goes out, and then that could change anything. But luckily for us, at least in terms of incomings and mostly sales, unless it's a Saudi Arabia thing, the window closes on Friday finally. They've got to start closing this window before the season starts. It's just madness for me. I mean, it's just stupid. It's just really frustrating. And this is saying it from a point of view where we're very proactive in the window. Imagine if it was Wenger years, it'd be absolutely horrible because we didn't do anything till the last minute anyway. But Neil, I've not kept you too long. What's your predictions? Obviously, we had predictions on the lineup for Man U. It's a massive game. It's a massive game for both teams, really. And both teams are sort of finding where they're at. And but what's your predictions for that game? It's a massive one. It's on Sunday. Got to win.
Yeah, simple as that. But I was so hoping we would have a clean sheet. Look at my prediction; went completely wrong. 3-0 my scoring. Completely wrong.
Oh yeah. For Fulham,
so I'm not gonna do anything crazy because it's going to be a tough game. Man United are up for it. The more I think about it, the more we need a player like Gabriel there because they're a dirty physical team as well. So we need our strongest players out there on the pitch. You've got the experience of that. But God, what we've just been saying, I don't know if Gabriel's going to be with the club, let alone be on the pitch for Man U. So yeah. I just don't know. But because we have to win, and because I've always had faith in us, and I always believe. I'll go with 2-1, and do you know what? I'm going to give the man some credit because he deserves it. 2-1, Eddie.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, we know we concede at home, so
exactly.
I'll go. What was it last season? 3-2. I'll go 3-2. 3-2 Arsenal. Come on, 3-2 Arsenal. No, not the last minute. Oh, God, my heart can't take it anymore. I know. I know.
Do you know, this is what's so annoying because if we drop points against them, that's potentially 4, maybe 5 in the first 4 games dropped. We can't afford to do that. Like you said, it's not like the olden days where you could afford to maybe drop points at the start of the season or even any time of the season because you knew your nearest rival are also going to drop points. Man City are a blooming machine. You know, it already feels like we're playing catch-up and they haven't even played their game in hand yet. But we feel like we're playing catch-up, even though we're ahead of them by a point. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about everything is that Tottenham, it's Tottenham top. Yeah, they are, aren't they? Goal difference.
No, it's West Ham at top.
Oh, West Ham? Oh, thank God. That's not too bad then.
I know. Well, it's just, let's hope for I'll go 3-2 and Saka. Yeah. Because our defensive frailties are definitely still there. I think Saliba kind of showed signs in this game of certainly being a little bit less comfortable at the left centre back position than the right, but also just he doesn't have his partner next to him, right? The partners are switching all the time. I'm not against. I'm not against a White Saliba partnership in the centre back positions if needed. I understand it. I could see that happening quite a lot this season. I think it can work. I think they're both very, very good. But do you know what it really costs us with is that Gabriel is by far our best aerial defender, by far. And Saliba's become a lot better aerially, but Ben White's always been a bit dodgy in the air defensively, to be honest. So I think you lose that when you don't. I know we gain some stuff in terms of ball playing ability. But how many incisive passes are your centre-backs playing at that point? I'm not really sure that many, you know. Gabriel's fine on the ball to me. He's not. I had a little, not a discussion, but a debate with someone. I said he's definitely not as technically gifted as those two on the ball, and they were arguing that he was. I said he's definitely not, just by what I don't care what the stats say. He's definitely not. But you lose a lot of physicality and character and leadership and aerial ability in Gabriel, and that's how a lot of teams play against us. They play on the set pieces. They play off the long ball up, and. He's useful for that. He's really useful for that. You need the disparity, the differences in your centre backs. You don't need them to be too similar like that, and it creates problems sometimes. So, yeah, Neil, it's a massive week. It's going to be a long week because we're frustrated and we've dropped points. The transfer window, hopefully, if there's some positive stuff, gives us a nice distraction. Maybe, I don't know. Especially if we get one or two in, that'd be nice. But hopefully no surprises out, that we know we need. Hopefully none of that. But I do get the feeling there might be something. I think it's going to be a mad week, to be honest. But either way, I don't really care what happens in the transfer window. Just win on Sunday. That's the main thing.
Absolutely right.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? And this is the last game before the international break as well, isn't it? I think so.
It'll be exactly that.
Yeah. Okay. So we are at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter. Purely Arsenal on YouTube. Please click us and subscribe. It's free, no adverts, all that sort of stuff. And we're on Twitter. We post our links. We're on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify app, and a few others. Thanks to Anthony Palm, who does all our editing. Thanks to everyone else. James, I hope you had a good sleep and missed the podcast. I will get you back on the next one, you lazy so-and-so. And Neil, thank you.
He's doing too many. That's why he's only famous.
I know. He's
doing about 20 a week now.
He's competing with your levels, he is. He's competing with your levels.
He's far beyond my levels. He does his own one as well.
I know. So sometimes I'm retweeting pods and I don't know which ones I'm retweeting for of his. I said, I think I did this earlier, but I'm going to do it again because I'm seeing it again. So I don't know. I think I'm retweeting. I don't know if it's the same ones, but it's all different. But no, he's doing some good stuff. So, Neil, thanks so much. Feel better. Not just because of the Arsenal result, but in terms of your health. And then hopefully Arsenal... Busy week on the training ground, Mikel. Stop tinkering. Get us back to where we were. Come on, up the Arsenal. Have the faith. Come on.